An Indigenous voice to Parliament. Let's have a look. Hello everyone, Florian.Heise here, and welcome to another episode of HeiseSays. Grab your stein of coffee, because I want to have a look at this ABC article which is discussing Indigenous voice to Parliament. Now, my understanding is that Aboriginal Australians have the same voice to Parliament that all of us do, and I can appreciate it, why they may be pissed off with that voice to Parliament. That's called our politicians. That's called our elected representatives in the House of Rep. Remember when we had the cash ban, and there were debates and speeches in the House of Reps about it, to an empty room? No one was listening to any of the speeches. Yeah. So I can see why there may be calls for this, why people feel like their voices aren't heard. But really, that's more of an indication of just how terrible their elected representatives are doing. Do we need another level of bureaucracy, another level of bullshit that won't achieve anything? You know, maybe I'm just too cynical. How many years have we been trying to bridge the gaps and address the issues in many of these remote communities, and nothing has come of it? Not a thing. So, but I guess, there's a whole lot of civil servants and bureaucrats that want to keep it going because it's a gravy train for them. And the poor people who are meant to be getting access to additional services and their communities improved just get cast aside. So let's look at this. New data shows that 3/4 of Australians agree it's time for a referendum to create an Indigenous voice to Parliament, but not all major parties do. Maybe we just need to have senators region locked. So you want an Indigenous voice to Parliament? Vote for one in the Senate. What's wrong with that? That's what normally happens. So, Vote Compass asked whether Australia should amend its constitution to establish a representative body or voice. I don't understand why they're calling for this. They have politicians. Okay, sure, they're useless, but yeah, there you go. Welcome to the club. To advise Parliament on laws and policies affecting Indigenous people. Why should their laws and policies be different to everyone else? They're Australians. Okay, that's it. We're Australians now. It's been recognised. Some of the outrageous laws of the past are gone. Maybe this needs to be more focused with differences in regional areas. Or the fact we should have a royal commission into bridging the gap and all of the money that's spent and how ineffective it is. That's what really needs to happen. Or the fact you've got groups of Aboriginal women going to Canberra and the only politician that will listen to them is Pauline Hanson. Don't believe everything the media tells you or the ABC, guys. There's clear support for the idea overall. 73% of Australians strongly or somewhat. Anyway. Should be a constitutional change to give Indigenous Australians a greater say over their own lives. Now, I agree with that. People should have a greater say over their own lives. But that getting more politicians isn't going to make that happen. Okay? We need to look at some of these regional communities and just the property ownership rules that go on there. Some of the body corporates on some of these little communities, how they're shafting their members, how they're screwing over the people. This is what you get with collectivism, guys. The push for a referendum was released as part of the Uluru Statement from the Heart, written in Central Australia in a historic gathering 5 years ago this month. Pit Jantarjara woman Sally Scales was at Uluru in 2017. She said there'd been growing support for a voice since then. You've got politicians. I don't get it. That was the smart thing about the Uluru Statement. It wasn't a gift to the politicians. It was gifted to every Australian, she said. This is our message and we need you to walk with us. The author of the statement reunited in... They called for the next Australian government to hold a referendum within the next 2 years. Why? We've got enough politicians. Okay. Do these poor people really think having more politicians is going to improve their lives? Is this what's happening here? Is this the people think this is going to make a difference? That's kind of sad in a way, honestly. Thinking growing politicians is going to be the solution. Shit. Since the last election in 2019, Vote Compass data has shown support for an Indigenous voice in Parliament appears to be growing. Overall, 64% of supporters, and that's up to 20 to 73. Support has strengthened for an Indigenous voice to Parliament over the past 3 years. So, answers to the proposition Australia should amend its constitution to establish a representative Indigenous body to advise Parliament on laws and policies affecting Indigenous people. Okay, strongly agree. Shit. Do we really need... How bad is our current system if people feel we need this? And it's just adding more layers, more bureaucrats, more voices going to make any difference? More and more Australians are understanding the issues involved when it comes to constitutional recognition of our First Nations people. Reconciliation Australian Chief Karen Mundine said. Labor voters, do we want to continue to cast the divide? I think most of the problems are to do with, well, a lot of them are to do with the regions and the remoteness of a lot of these communities. And frankly, I'd blame a lot of it on the body corporates. Labor voters are significantly more likely than Liberal National voters to back a voice, with 82% supportive of political referendum. Of course they are. Lefties always want more government. They want more bureaucrats. They think that makes a difference. They don't think it causes more damage. Vote Compass data suggests coalition voters are divided on the issue. 43% of support changing and 38% oppose. The data reveals support among both groups of voters has risen over the past 3 years. Green voters, of course, the Greens want to change everything. I mean, there you go. So how will it work? The voice would be an Indigenous representative body which would advise lawmakers on issues affecting First Nations peoples. We already have that. You've got that. You've got politicians. Why do we need this? How did we get here? For decades, there's been a debate over the proposal to give Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islanders more respect and power, known as constitutional recognition. Ah, shit. Anyway, I don't feel like going through this anymore. This is really sad. The fact that we've gotten to this point is what's really sad. And the fact that people think that more politicians, which is all this is going to make a difference, is kind of heartbreaking. We're bloody screwed as a country. Well, let's talk about this one. What do you reckon, guys? Do you think this will achieve anything? Or is this just going to be a greater increase in the bureaucracy? More people, more rent-seeking politicians riding on the back of their community and not achieving a bloody thing. It's going to cost a lot of money. There's going to be elections. I don't know anymore. In the end, it's always the people that cop it, and nothing improves. What do you reckon? Let me know your take on this one, guys. It's kind of sad. As always, thanks for watching. You can support the channel financially via YouTube or Patreon, or use any of our referral links. Or if you need architectural services, you can contact us. We do a lot of education, remote, and resource sector work. We've even worked on some Indigenous housing projects. There you go, guys. I guess that's why I'm so frustrated at this. We've been talking about these issues, particularly with housing and accommodation, for years at university, back in the day, and nothing changes. Decades later, nothing's changed. I'm too cynical. I don't think more politicians are the answer. Take care, guys. I'll see you next time.